shows the inside of a bar with Phil Hartman as a bartender and John Belushi as a customer sitting at the bar. Chris Farley walks in as a customer, takes a seat next to Belushi and says, "Hey, barkeep, how about a cocktail?" Hartman, "Very good, sir." Hartman leans under the bar and grabs a dildo with a raccoon tail attached and hands it to Farley. Farley, "What the hell is this?" Hartman, "You said you wanted a cocktail." Farley, "Never mind then, how about a beer?" Belushi, "Put that beer on my tab, Johnny." As Hartman removes the dildo and gets Farley a beer, Farley shakes Belushi's hand and says, "Thanks, man, my name's Bob." Belushi, "The name's Mike. So, Bob, what brings you in here?" Farley, "Well, honestly, Mike, I just got divorced and I'm looking for a little companionship, if you know what I mean." As Belushi nods towards the empty bar, he says, "Well, as you can see, looks like it's just you and me in here." Farley looks around and says, "Yeah, I can see that. Where's all the ladies?" Belushi puts his arm around Farley and says, "It's not that kind of bar, friend." Farley backs away from Belushi and says, "Whoa, sorry, buddy, I don't know what you mean. Is this some kind of gay bar or something?" Belushi, "Of course. The name of the bar is Cocktails." Farley, "Like the drink, right?" Belushi, "No, you see, the tails part of the name isn't spelled Tails, but instead Tales. So it's like it's about telling stories about cocks." Farley, "Oh, no wonder why the bartender got me a dildo when I ordered a cocktail." Belushi, "Exactly." Farley, "Well, Mike, I'm sorry, but I don't swing that way." Belushi, "There's a first time for everything, Bob." Farley, "How would it even work?" Belushi, "What do you mean?" Farley, "Well, suppose I gave in and decided to be gay with you. Who'd be putting what where?" Belushi puts his arm back around Farley and says, "We could put whatever we want, wherever we want." Farley, "Am I even your type?" Belushi, "You got a cock, don't you?" Farley, "Sure do." Belushi, "Then you're my type." Farley, "But like, who'd be the pitcher and who'd be the catcher?" Belushi starts to caress Farley's face and says, "Do you want to pitch or do you want to catch, Buttercup?" Farley, "Well, I always pictured myself as more of a pitcher than a catcher. But the way you're caressing my face, it makes me feel real safe." Belushi, "I'll make you feel real safe, Sugar Lips." Farley, "I feel so safe that it makes me want to catch for you." Belushi and Farley begin to kiss and grope each other. Hartman approaches them and says, "Mike, what have I told you? When you reel in one of your new fishes, take it outside." Belushi breaks the kiss and says, "Oh, come on, Johnny. No one else is here." Hartman, "But still, I may work in a gay bar, but that doesn't mean I want to see it in front of me." Farley leans over the bar and begins to caress Hartman's face and says, "Oh, come on, honey boo. Don't you want to play some baseball with us?" Hartman, "Would I be pitching or catching?" Belushi leans over the bar and begins to caress Hartman's face as well and says, "Whatever you want, our little tiger lily." Hartman, "Well, I always pictured myself as more of a pitcher. But the way you two are caressing my face, it makes me feel..." Farley, "Real safe?" Hartman, "Exactly. It makes me feel so safe that I think I want to catch for you two." The three men all have a three-way kiss. Hartman breaks the kiss and says, "Okay, your masculine ways have convinced me. I'm going to close down Cocktails so the three of us can share some tales about our cocks. And dead from the earth, we're not alive. It's Saturday Not Alive, starring John Belushi, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, Jen Hooks, musical guest, Tony Bennett, and your host, George Carlin. Everybody, George Carlin. Applause, applause, applause. Shows George Carlin on stage who says, "Thank you. It's great to be back hosting this show a third time." Now, when I hosted SNL during its very first episode in my monologue, I talked a little bit about the differences between football and baseball, in that football is technological and tough, and baseball is pastoral and more laid back. For example, football is played in a stadium. Baseball is played in a park. You remember, right? Applause, applause, applause. Carlin. Well, to that end, how about who plays football and baseball? In football, you have Bears. In baseball, you have Cubs. In football, you have Falcons and Seahawks. In baseball, you have Cardinals and Blue Jays. In football, you have Steelers. In baseball, you have Angels. In football, you have Chargers. In baseball, you have Dodgers. In football, you have Raiders and Vikings. In baseball, you have pairs of socks, both red and white. So as you may know, I had a lot of fun with language in my day and figuring out why we use the words we use. And that's why I'm glad to have this platform from the grave, because since I have died, society has come up with a whole new group of words. Latinx. What the hell is Latinx? I hear that, I'm liable to get some Vaseline in a sock because it sounds like a porno. Fat liberation. What the hell are black people supposed to think when they hear the term fat liberation? Black people's ancestors were enslaved in this country for hundreds of years, and that only ended after a civil war. And now, 158 years later, all of a sudden fat people need liberation too. What the hell do they need liberation from? Food! Instead of Jefferson Davis that they need freedom from, it's Colonel Sanders. Non-binary. We know that you're not binary, but now that there's more than two genders, don't you have to specify how non you are? Perhaps you're also non-trinary, or non-quadnary, perhaps even non-quinary, maybe even non-sexnary, non-sepnary, or non-ocnary, or non-nonary. When I reincarnate, I'm going to tell every asshole who will listen that I reject being classified into any one of the 9 main genders, and that I'm non-nonary. Pansexual. Just what we needed. Peter fucking Pan got his own sexual orientation. It's the one where you never want to grow up and stay in Neverland. Hoe phase. You hear now all about women being in their hoe phase. But to me, it sounds like something Santa Claus would go through. His ho-ho-ho phase. LGBTQIA2S+. Now, I've said before that most people individually I like, but I hate groups. And this exceedingly long and ever-changing acronym group is no exception. I like gays personally. I like lesbians personally. I like trans people personally. I like bisexuals personally. I like queer people personally. I like intersex people personally. I like asexual people personally. And I'm sure I'd like two-spirit people personally if I knew what the hell a two-spirit was. But when you add them all together as a group, and God forbid you say something they don't like, all of a sudden they're like a bunch of Nazis who, instead of putting you in concentration camps, they want to instead fuck you up your ass. Or they're like the KKK with their white hoods being gender neutral. Or even a bunch of Republicans who now want to abort any cis fetuses that don't know what the hell a two-spirit is. I have no problem with fighting for your rights, but they should be careful with groupthink, or they'll become no better than their oppressors. Except at least they'll be wearing rainbows. Anyway, we have a great show for you tonight. Tony Bennett is here. So stick around so we can help him find out exactly where he left his heart in San Francisco. We'll be right back.